So we're gonna kick off this fireside. I'm gonna actually steal the question that you asked me at dinner that I didn't actually get to answer. But I love the question. Bob asked me. He said, "What motivates you internally?" And I'm curious to ask you that, Bob. What motivates you internally?
So I made a mistake by asking this question to you. So yeah. So as far as technology is, the as far as stand for Science for Society.
Science for Society.
So that's a student NGO that we started during college days.
Yeah.
And then we realized that doing very NGO related work will not help us to achieve scale.
Mm.
And then that's how we moved. When I moved to the post graduation, then I realized that it has to actually take a shape of a commercial world.
Yeah.
And then we converted the DNA still remains as far as, but we added technologies in front of that, and it becomes a commercial organization. So the internal motivation is how do we apply science to solve the real world societal problems.
I love that. That's way better than what my answer would have been. So if we go back before you commercialized it, before you added the technologies, what were you doing in college with S4S?
So as far as we were doing a bunch of things, starting from water purification using solar energy
Yeah.
to food preservation, to how do you create baby incubators to egg incubators,
Wow.
bunch of things.
Yeah.
We hope that how these technologies can reach to commercial world, but we failed at multiple locations, and then we created a commercial organization.
Yeah. And tell us about the first challenge you tackled commercially with S4S Technologies now that you're in your postgrad.
Okay, so when we started with Esperis, we had a bunch of technologies with us, and we were looking at how we can commercialize. And solar drying, which is our core technology today, was basically the first technology. And we got offer from Indian company to sell off that technology for around $200,000
Yeah.
as a patent, IP license.
Yeah.
And we did a quick maths saying that how many machines do I need to make and sell to earn the equal money.
Yeah.
And then we reached out to something like 1,000 machines to earn the
Yeah.
equal money, and we said no, that's a bad deal,
Yeah.
and let's move it commercially, and that's how the solar dryer manufacturing began at our end.
Yeah. So tell us about solar drying and why it's important. Tell us about the problem that you're solving.
So it's basically my personal journey. So at my family level, I used to go to weekly bazaars to buy fruits and vegetable every once in a week.
Yeah.
From something like when I was 7-year-old
Yeah.
to I was like 16, 17-year-old. And the basic thing that I observed was that if I go in the morning, the vegetables are very expensive. The moment I go like 5 p.m. onwards, they are dirt cheap, right?
Wow.
Farmers don't have a way to store. And that clicked in my mind throughout those like 10 years. When I joined for engineering, then I realized that dehydration is one of the method being practiced in chemical industry, very frequently used.
Yeah.
How I can take that technology to farmers, right at farmers level,
Yeah.
and how can make them accessible this technology. And that's how solar drying began.
How big is the problem? How much of the fruits and vegetables produced in India go to waste because they perish?
So typically what happens is that when you produce like 100 kg of fruits and vegetable,
Okay.
typically 30% are something that cannot be, those are not good looking,
Yeah.
or those are too delicate that those cannot be transported to the market.
Yeah.
And the total volume is around 60 million tons.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 30% of all food.
30% of fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
And what does it mean is that each family can be given like a 1 kg of fruit and vegetable free every day
Yep.
in India, and that's a big chunk.
Wow, it's huge. So solar drying, there was a question when you first presented the
Yeah.
company to the group. It was, well, isn't the sun just the best way to dry, right? Why can't we put it out on a rock slab, the different vegetables, and just have them dry in the light of day? What's the difference with your technology versus, a very simple form of dehydration?
So in a simple language, if I had to say, yes, drying using sun is something very common and
Yeah.
traditional, maybe goes back to hundreds of years. The key thing is that the moment you take out a fruit or vegetable out of the plant, you harvest it, the microbes start growing it, right? And it's a competition between microorganisms and a dehydration.
Yeah.
And it decides who wins, decides whether product will get rotten or it will get preserved. Maybe 5 to 10 vegetables can be very well preserved.
Yeah.
But the drying actually does three things. Number one, it is applicable to all fruits, vegetable, fish, spices, meat. Number
Yeah.
one. Number two, it makes product microbiologically stable and safe to consume. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry. And the third thing is that it makes product fit for various industrial usages.
Okay.
Right? So you can use it for cooking purposes, you can use as an ingredient in food industry, or you can use as a snacks.
Yeah.
And that happens because of a machine or a technology part of it.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the scale that you've hit today so far in terms of what's the impact S4S Technologies is having?
So the story again goes back to the
Yeah.
patent versus machine selling.
Yep.
And we started selling machines in 2014-15.
Yeah.
We sold to more than 14 countries, more than 2,700 machines.
Huh.
And then realized that the bigger problem farmers have is on two sides. Number one, they don't have money to buy machines,
Yeah.
and they don't have market to sell dehydrated products. And in one of the meeting, actually I realized that that's a much bigger problem. We pivoted our business model, and now we work with around 1,100 farmers as an integrated value chain, where from 900 farmers they grow vegetables,
Yeah.
and 200 agro entrepreneurs process those vegetables. So in direct value chain, there are 1,100 farmers. Machines are being used by more than 2,700 machines are being used
Yeah.
across 14 countries.
That's incredible. um, and just so we get a sense of the impact, I mean, what does that mean for the farmers? How does this change their day-to-day lives? And maybe if there's a story too that can make it real, but however you want to share.
Definitely. So if I look at the how it makes an impact to the lives, we make the real payment on the spot in the village to the farmers for their fresh produce, and then that produce is taken out to these women agri entrepreneurs to whom we give these solar powered machines. These women typically earn between $2 to maybe $5 per day,
Yeah.
and every 7 day we give them a fresh material, we collect the dry material and make the payment to them. And I have seen these life changing stories of these women farmers. First day when we go do a training, nobody in the family participates in the whole conversation.
Yeah.
On the 7th day when you make a payment, and the next time when you come, you will find husband supporting, mother-in-law supporting, children supporting, everyone. And we have seen women farmers paying EMIs of bicycle of their husband. We have seen women farmers paying EMI of drip irrigation. We have seen they are using that money to send their child kid to the school,
Yeah.
because that is something that's not being very common after a certain thing. So we have seen how lives of these women are getting changed through
Yeah.
this process.
Yeah. Awesome. Above, something I don't know is what your childhood was like. Can you tell what your childhood was like? Can you tell us a little bit about how you were raised and how that's influenced you to become the person you are today and the work you're doing today?
So my father was a farmer. Then he joined for a government job for a while, and then again he came back. He started farming plus kept on doing a practice as a lawyer, and that allowed me to travel across various parts in India, in Maharashtra state, starting from rural part to Mumbai, and I actually got exposure to lot of cultures. And when I spent most of time during when I was growing in the rural part, and that gave me very close exposure to various type of people. One of the co-founder that I made is my sixth standard classmate.
Yeah.
That became a co-founder later. So I think the childhood has given so many aspects of how do you really look at life and be close to people.
Yeah. So it's my last question because we don't have enough time, unfortunately. But how can we be a part of this journey with you? I mean, what are you struggling with right now or grappling with where you could really use some help? If you were to raise your hand in that sense, how can we help?
So I think this program was really eye-opener for me. And what I am learning from here, I think for next few months is good enough for me, honestly. And I will raise my hand again in between when I really need help. But I think for time being, a lot of things are getting sorted, and what Tom has taught, I actually tried that with one of the customer today, and it really worked.
Yeah.
And just to give an example, just to give an example, it's a MNC, and it's for Tom, you. So,
Tom's back.
so I tried his technique today, and a customer wrote. I was in his lecture,
Yeah.
and in the morning I got 3 back-to-back emails saying that my material has not reached. You have served only 2% of the annual contract. ABC, so much and so forth. And then the other person wrote an email. This is so alarming, and etc. 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 And then that lecture happened of Tom today, and then I called that guy, and I just kept mum. If I was Vaibhav a day before, I would have said, no, I will solve your problems tomorrow. I will come back on this date.
Yeah.
I will meet you, etc. And today I just took a pause. I just heard what Tom said. I paused for a moment and said, so how can I support you? And he told me that your colleague is not replying to my emails. And I just think that though we as an organization supported you so long with the annual contract, we want to support you for the next year, but your response to my emails is not good. And that's my problem.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's not about annual contract. It's not about the material. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just about how he's feeling, that how we should deal with him.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So
And
simple.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, why Bob. I feel
Amazing. And it happened in 2 minutes.
it happened in 2 minutes. Rapid prototyping. Yeah. Yeah. I think the honest truth is we have so much to learn from you. I wish we had more time. I'm so grateful that now we're on this journey together into perpetuity. Let's give YBOV a huge round of applause.
Thank you.